This is the QRD Maestro S3. If you're currently looking for a controller to level up your fighting game experience, you may not have to look any further than this. Now, first things first, of course, huge shout out to QRD for sending me this controller so I could do this review. I really appreciate it. And no, I am not getting paid to do this review. Technically, they paid me by just giving me the controller for free. So I will actually be giving my honest opinion about this controller in this video. What I like and what I don't particularly like about it. So to start off, I just want to go over a few of the features of this guy, because he's got some pretty cool ones. One thing you'll immediately notice is the touchpad at the center top of the controller. It's basically a PS4 pad, which is very nice. It also works on multiple platforms: PS4, PS3, Nintendo Switch, PC, Android, iOS, and even Xbox 360. I don't know who's still playing on that, but if you are, comment down below. And yes, it even works on the next gen consoles. You just need a converter. Again, we'll get into that more later. It has ultra quiet mechanical buttons and RGB 8 color adjustments, which yes, you can choose pattern, the brightness, the different colors. It's pretty customizable. Now, just opening this sucker up, like it looks clean. It's got your standard 12 buttons for a fighting game controller. And if we want to go even more in depth on the customization, they give you extra buttons so you can color coordinate which button is which. And I think that's really cool. Also, it's kind of a blast from the past, because if you've been to arcades, you know that this is what the buttons look like. You know, they're color coordinated. And I wish more controllers did this because it's so cool. You get 3 of each color: red, green, blue, and yellow. Now, this controller review is actually supposed to be out quite a while ago, but QRD asked me to wait a little bit longer so that they could send me their PS5 wireless adapter and converter. So if you are looking to use this controller for a next-gen console, you will need to purchase it separately. That link will be down in the description below, but you can find it easily on Amazon for around $45. With this controller, you of course get the manual, which is super helpful, and a USB-C cord. Now, me being me, I wanted to test out what it was like to change out the buttons just off the rip immediately, and it's fairly easy. I mean, you literally just grab it, pull it out, and then put the new one in. Like, it's, you know, as long as you do it gently, you're fine. Don't stress it. Don't think you're gonna break the controller. So whether you just want to rely on the LEDs or actually color coordinate with the buttons, it is not hard to make this controller your own, which I really appreciate. Now here, of course, you got the standard manual, which gives you all of the details that you will need for this controller, and I highly recommend you look at it because I had to give it a gander quite a few times. But that is everything that you get when you purchase this controller. Now I want to look over it, and I mean, just look at this puppy. We got it booted up. It looks good. It looks clean. And its size is really nice, because if you travel, you want something that's not too big. And I will say, I do wish it was a little bit smaller, but this will fit really easily in a travel bag, so I don't think it's something you have to worry about. And the biggest thing here is the thickness, right? My original hitbox that a buddy gave me was like crazy thick, as most hitboxes are, because they sit on your lap. I believe that this guy is more meant for being on a desk, and QRD had that in mind, which is why it has these rubber circles on the bottom so that it doesn't slip on any surface. Now, I'm sure the biggest thing most of you guys are wondering is the latency. With it being a wireless controller, it is not a direct connection. I can happily say that the latency on this thing is impressive. I tried it wired, I tried it wireless, and I could not tell a difference. Now, guarantee you there is latency. It's probably like a millisecond, and that doesn't sound like much, but when you're playing a fighting game, that matters. I mean, sure, as you can see right now, I'm losing, and yes, I'm fighting a CPU. I'm just bad, bro. I don't know if you saw this in the manual, but 2 other features that are pretty cool about this controller. It has a direct audio input, so that's pretty neat. And it also has a slot on the back to where you can put your mobile device. I gotta know, who's using this to play on their phone? That's kind of wild. And finally, of course, as standard with most fighting game controllers, you can customize the inputs to be whatever you want. And I won't go over all of these specific features that this thing can do, because there are a lot. Hence why I said earlier, be sure to check out the manual. There's things like setting the turbo function, changing latency settings, changing SOCD function, changing direction buttons function. So yeah, there's a lot. All right, so let me give you my pros, and then we'll go over the cons. And these are just my personal cons, what I think is kind of not the best about the controller, but in the end, I think it's all personal preference, you know? So something I might not like about the controller doesn't necessarily mean it would be something that maybe you don't like. So starting off, we got the lights on this thing. Now, on the camera, this actually looks really good, but in person, it doesn't look the best. I'm not gonna lie. They look kind of cheap. I don't know really, here, can I get like the camera to get really up close to it? Will it zoom in if it's not zoomed in on me? You know those lights that you can get at like Walmart, the cheap ones, and you're like, yeah, this is cheap. Yeah, no. That's to be fair, I'm comparing this to my Hot 42. Hot out. I still don't know how to properly say the company's name. And what I really like about this one is that the LEDs are under it. So see, you can see them, and it looks really good. It also does light up when you, or stops lighting up when you hit it. This one lights up when you do hit it. See, you can see it flashing. Yeah, it's I don't know. They look good on cam. Don't get me wrong. Like, look at that. Like, that looks good on cam. But in person, they look really cheap. Speaking of cheap, the weight on these two guys. Holy crud. This guy is heavy duty, and I really like that. This guy is very light, and that's not a bad thing. Light is not a bad thing, but it feels kind of and I think the reason for that is because of how thick it is, and there's just not much in there, which isn't a bad thing, but it makes it feel cheap, at least to me. In the end, I tested the controller, and that's all that matters, is that it works, wired or wireless. And the buttons sound pretty nice. I mean, just listen to this. They're like really quiet, honestly, compared to this stinking guy, you know? Like, this sounds like you're tapping on a keyboard. So if you want to play incognito, and I don't even know why or how that would be a thing, there you go. This guy's the silent killer, if you will. Now, the next point I want to talk about with this thing is actually its thickness. And that's one of the problems that I have with this guy right here. Look at how thin he is. I can't put him on my lap. He has to be on a desktop surface for me to play. And I'm fine with that. I've adapted to that because the last one I was using, which is back there, was a thick boy. Yeah, it's thick. He was essentially like two of these. Like, look at how thick this is compared to this, right? Look at that. Oh my gosh. So I do like the thickness. The problem is, I think they should have put this at more of a slope. You can kind of see what it's going for here. There's a little bit of a slope, but it's not enough. Now, the reason I say this is because you have two routes that you can go, right? You can go the route of this controller, be super flat and have a slope, so that when you're leaning your hands on the desk, you know, it's not uncomfortable. I mean, that's why I wear gloves partially, is because my hands are leaning on this like this, and so I have padding. The problem with this is that your hands have nowhere to go. So unless you're holding your hands up like this, which is exhausting, and if you play like this, then I guess this works out for you, but I don't. Your hands are just on the edge here, and maybe it's me. I have big hands. Or I think I do. But it's such a drop-off that it's kind of problematic for me. I do not find it the most comfortable to play on. You either have to have a drop-off, a nice slope to where your hands can be on the desk while also like leaning on this to play, or you need to have enough space on this surface area here to comfortably have your hands lay on it like this to play. There's not much space. So you got two options, and unfortunately for me at least, this kind of fails both of them. So it's not the most comfortable for me to play. If you have smaller hands, then you won't have to worry about that. I think if they had pushed the buttons a little bit higher or extended this out some more, it would be fine. But yeah, that's probably my biggest issue with this controller. Other than that, it's really nice. You know, I like that they have these buttons written down. You know what they are. Unfortunately, on mine, you don't, so you just have to memorize, you know, what the options or the R3 or the L3. Now, they didn't mark the buttons, and again, on the one that I have now, those aren't marked. When I did do my first controller review, I was like, hey, it'd be nice if we had the buttons on the controllers so that I knew what was what, which you could argue wouldn't be good because if people want to like remap it and whatnot. But another controller that I received that I still have to make a review on, they put the buttons on like the side, which is really nice. So you know what you're hitting, or I guess just cope and memorize them, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, man, this controller is really nice. It's a great size. I like the rubber circles on the bottom so that it doesn't slip anywhere. And the option to play wireless is really nice. Now, I don't think that you'd ever do that in an actual competition. I wouldn't recommend it. I think that wired will always be the best because it is a direct connection from the controller to the console. But when you're just at home chilling and playing, like wireless, it's nice. Also, there's a headphone jack here if you want to use that for sound just to be like directly plugged in, I guess. All the additional features it has, like changing the light pattern and whatnot. And for the price, is a pretty decent controller. It's definitely not my style, but hey, it might be yours. Don't knock it till you try it. And with that being said, that's going to do it for this review. I know it's a bit of a short one, but if you know me, you know that I try to give you as much information as possible in as little time as possible. So why don't you give me your thoughts in the comments down below, what you think of this controller, whether you'd consider buying it, some suggestions that maybe I could send to QRD on how they could improve on this controller. That'll do it for me today though. As always, thanks for watching. You'll see me in the next one. God bless, and don't forget to stay mad.